Hello everyone. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video on flight simulation. It's a very interesting hobby. It can be very exciting, very rewarding, and it can be as simple or as complicated as you wish. First I'll talk about some of the programs available, and then we'll talk about the setups after that. There's several good programs available. The original version, or one that went back a long ways, is Flight Simulator X, or FSX. That particular one is, this is a boxed version which I purchased a long time ago. It's been out for a long time. It's also available now on Steam through Dovetail Games as a digital download. There's a ton of add-ons that can be either freeware or purchased to build that game up, so it's been around a long time. It's a 32-bit system, so it's quite old, but it still does the chore. If you're looking for something very basic and very inaffordable to get yourself started, you could probably pick a boxed version off eBay quite cheap. So Flight Simulator X, FSX, is that particular one. Xplane 11 is a newer version. It's very good. It's very detailed scenery. I have both of them on this computer here. And P3D, or Prepared 3D, through Lockheed Martin, is another good one. So there's lots of good choices. There's no right or wrong. They all have their strong points, and they all have their weak points, and it just depends on what your interest is. So take the time and do a little bit of research on the internet, and you can pick a game out that way. One thing that I will point out is they all list minimum requirements for your computer. Stay away from the minimum requirements, because if you want to expand the hobby, you'll probably be disappointed at some point, and you'll also won't be able to run the graphics at as high a settings as you want. So you want to have a little better computer than what the minimum requirements are. You don't need a real expensive gaming computer. You can pay a lot of money for those. It's not necessary. Just do your homework, do a little bit of research. It's really not very complicated. So for a basic setup, you don't need anything as complicated as this. You would just need a half-decent joystick, one that has a throttle on it, and those can be picked up anywhere off of used marketplace sites or off Amazon. They're not expensive. So that'll get you a basic setup and get started. This particular home-built cockpit I made a couple of years ago. It's a generic general aviation cockpit. There's a lot of different ways of doing this. If you go on YouTube and type in home-built cockpits, you can find a ton of them. It just depends on your technical ability and how much money you want to spend, because really the sky's the limit. If you want to go that elaborate, the information's out there if you want to do a little bit of digging. This is a general aviation cockpit. I didn't want to get stuck with flying any one particular type of airplane all the time. Some people will build their cockpit to model a particular airplane, but I wanted to fly a variety of different ones, so it's, as I say, it's generic, and it's geared for a piston engine or turboprops. The basic setup is I have a video card in the computer to run 3 monitors. So this particular monitor here is your viewing monitor, and this is what you're going to look out the window with. And down here I've set it up so you can look at all my instruments. So it's very similar to what you'd see in a real cockpit. And I've used what's called an Arduino board for the controls. A lot of these switches run through the Arduino. You can purchase that off the internet. They're not terribly expensive. It's an interface that allows you to plug into the USB on the computer. And you need a program called MobiFlight to operate that. What you do is you input specific settings into the MobiFlight, and it tells the Arduino what to do. So it's basically an interface. When you're turning lights off and on, it actually does that function on the simulator. So I'll give you a little demonstration about how that works right now. Right now we're flying over southern New Brunswick. And this particular plane is a Piper Cheyenne. PA-31 actually, sorry. And that's the external view, and this is the internal view here. So what we'll do is I'll just throttle this unit back. And I'll turn off the autopilot. Right now the autopilot's on altitude hold and heading hold. And we'll throttle back the airspeed here, which will allow us to lower the landing gear. This is the landing gear selector here. And once the airspeed drops down around 135 knots, I will now lower the gear. The gear is in transit, it's coming down. We have 3 greens, the gear is locked and secured. So we'll go back on the external view again. Now you can see that the gear is down. And now I'll raise the gear back up again. And you can see the gear coming back up again. I'll just cycle that once more.
You're aware of the restricted airspace you are.
So all of these switches are all hooked up to actually function something on the computer. So it's a relatively inexpensive setup. There is more elaborate ways of doing it, but this works fine for me. If you're interested in the hobby, check it out. Go on YouTube, go on the internet, do a little bit of research. The sky's the limit. If you want to keep it simple, you can keep it simple. If you want to go elaborate, you can do that as well. But it's a really great tool. If you have an interest in aviation, airplanes, or you thought at some point you might like to have a pilot's license, but you know it's very expensive, this is a great alternative. So, thanks for watching.